Do you have any fun childhood stories from your youth that you think back on and you're like, man, I am so lucky that we didn't end up in jail doing that? Let's talk about it. Hey, I'm Rob, and welcome to our homestead. We're happy that you're here, and we're always talking about living happy, fun-loving, and carefree, living in the moment, living in the now. But sometimes when you're drinking your coffee in the morning and you're watching the sunrise, or you're just outside, really on the homestead, no green screen or anything. I mean, this is really our backyard, and you're enjoying things. About 20 minutes ago, the weather radio was going off, and it was all gray and black, and it looked like it was going to pour rain, and all of a sudden the sun popped out, and it never did anything. So go figure. So happy, fun-loving, carefree, and living in the moment, not worrying about what might happen tomorrow, but it is fun to reminisce about your past and the things that you did that got you to where you are today, that's made you the person that you are. So what are some of the things that maybe you've had in your past? I always like to think back to my grandfather and some stories that we had. When we were little, one of the things that we really looked forward to was riding out to the country with Grandpa to visit the relatives, because he always stopped at this A&W root beer stand. And the person came out on the roller skates and you rolled down your window. That's back when cars had that little flappy window at the front, and then you had the big square window that you dropped down. They put that little tray on the glass with the arms that lean down against the side, and we'd all get frosted mugs of root beer. And the little kids would get the little glasses, and then they had like 4 or 5 or 6 different size glasses. And I always remember that memory, saying, oh, let's go up to the farm to visit the relatives. We didn't really care that much about going to the farm. We wanted to stop at that A&W root beer stand. That was a big deal for a summer childhood event, was to road trip it to get something as simple as a mug of root beer. A lot different than it is today. You have any stories like that? Let me know. Then as we got a little bit older, when we would go visit Grandma and Grandpa, they had, I think it was about 5 acres of land where they lived, and way out back they had a tractor shed, the house, and then there were a couple of barns and things and a wood shed, and way out and back from the house, at least it seemed way out and back when we were kids, they had a tractor shed, and the shed had a flat roof on it, and right next to the shed was this big mulberry tree. And when the mulberries would get ripe, and if you don't know, mulberries, they kind of look like blackberries, but they have a real green stem, and it's a tree, and they're a sweet berry. We would go and we would climb up and get up on top of that shed, and we would just lay, because it was, again, just a shallow pitched shed roof, and we'd lay up there and we'd pick the berries and eat them, and pick the berries and eat them, and of course goof around and probably tell inappropriate stories to each other and laugh and goof off and just lay up on that roof and just eat all those mulberries. And that was, a great memory. We looked forward to going to Grandma and Grandpa's in the summer when the mulberries would bloom and, get ripened berries, and then we'd sit up on that roof and eat those berries. It was really a lot of fun. Again, simple things in a simple time. When I got a little bit older, one of the things that I looked forward to is Grandpa had this old red Ford pickup truck, and it had 3 on the tree. If you remember back when the trucks and cars too, because we even had a car that had it when I was little, but it's a H pattern, and you had first gear, second gear, third gear, and then reverse. And so we had this old red Ford pickup. The gas tank was behind the seat back then, if you can imagine that. When you grabbed the seat and leaned it up, the gas tank was right there with the the fill nozzle on the outside. And I mean, I don't know how old I was, but maybe 10 or 11. And I'd get in that truck and start it up and drive. And again, I think it was about 5 acres. I'd drive down along the fence to the back of the property, and then he had kind of a circle turnaround. There was an old foundation down there, and then drive back up toward the house. And I don't know how many times I would do that. And that was a big deal back then, was, you know, driving this stick shift truck. I don't even know how I pushed the clutch pedal to the floor because I wasn't very big back then. And but that's just an incredible fun memory. And I wonder, I don't even know if they knew I was doing it or if they just said, oh, there's Rob out there again, you know, driving that truck. I hope he doesn't crash through the fence or run into a tree or something. Again, these just silly memories that pop into your head when you're drinking your coffee in the morning and thinking about things to do. Getting your day started. Oh, I just thought of this one too. When we were really little, when we were small and we would visit Grandma and Grandpa, again, it was about a 5-acre farm, and they lived out on the edge of town in the country, an unincorporated property. They had a well, you know, and all of that. And they had a big fireplace in the family room that was added on to the old farmhouse. And we used to beg them to start a fire all the time in the evening when we would stay over there. But when we were really little, my sister and I, we would, she was a couple years younger than me, they had barn cats. They had these wild cats, and they'd have kittens, and they might have them like underneath the woodshed or wherever in the barn, and we would, you know, hide and coax them out, and we would do everything we could. I mean, we're talking wild cats back then. You know, they were just wild barn cats, completely feral. But the little kittens, if you could catch them young enough, and you'd catch them when they'd come out from under the barn, if you could start petting them, you could tame them enough that you could play with them and hold them a little bit. And so we'd catch one and we'd play with it and pet it and pet it and pet it and pet it, and you know, then it'd run off, and then we'd sit there by the corner of the shed and wait for another one to, you know, to pop out and grab it. And so, you know, that was another good memory. So when we were little, playing with the kittens and eating the mulberries off the tractor barn and driving the old Ford pickup truck up and down the back of the property. Now, when I got a little older, I can't believe that we never ended up in jail over this, but there was a stone quarry next to my grandparents' property. And when the stone quarry where they mine stone, you know, to use for roads or whatever they use stone for, and rock quarry, stone quarry, gravel quarry, whatever you want to call it. And of course they dig all the stone and haul it away in these big giant trucks and loader tractors and things. So they'd end up with these square lakes down there. And these lakes, I mean, it was private property, fenced off. Nobody, I mean, they had guards at the front gate and everything. And they were just full of bass and other fish. And I mean, nobody fished in there except the owner of the place. And so at nighttime, we would go to my grandparents' property and we would sneak down to the back, and we had a shortcut through the property, and there was a hole in the fence, and we would go down the side of the gravel rock quarry to these lakes, and of course weeds and things, and we'd sit down there and we'd fish, and we use worms and rubber fake worms and lures, or you know, whatever we had. And I mean, you just caught these giant bass like crazy, and we'd be down there fishing, and of course we're supposed to be quiet, but we're goofing and laughing. And then all of a sudden the guard would come whipping around the corner in his pickup truck, and we'd haul butt up the side of the quarry pit, you know, because it's way down where they've dug out all the gravel, and we'd haul our butts hand over fist and heels, you know, and get up and carrying our fishing pole and our tackle box or whatever, and up and out and through the little hole in the fence, and then we'd hide in the scrubs and the bushes and wait for the guard to make his rounds and go off. And people every once in a while, somebody would get caught in there and they'd have to get bailed out of jail because the owners took it really seriously. And then us kids, you know, sneaking down into there and fishing. And then, of course, when we got older, beer was involved, which made it even more interesting. So I, honest to gosh, don't know how we never, ever got in trouble for that, because of all the times, for all the years, my teenage years and that, and in the summers of always going to Grandma and Grandpa's house at nighttime and wait until, you know, 11 o'clock midnight, pitch dark, and sneaking through the fence and down in the quarry and fishing. I mean, we must have done it hundreds of times. And the guard would zoom around in his pickup truck and dust flying, and we'd run up that bank and get away. And oh man, I don't know. So do you have any fun childhood memories like that? Kittens, eating mulberries till you got sick, anything at all? Fishing on private property and trying to not get arrested? And that's all about living happy, fun-loving, and carefree. And today you live in the moment today, but hey, it's fun to reminisce about when you were living in the moment back through your childhood. So seriously, what kind of fun things did you do growing up back in your day? Let me know in the comments, and share this with a friend and give them a good laugh. Subscribe, watch another video. Thanks.